2 years ago, Sarah got the best news of her professional life. A $12,000 raise. She celebrated. She upgraded her apartment. She bought a nicer car. She started eating at better restaurants. She felt, for the first time in years, like she was finally getting ahead. 12 months later, Sarah had exactly $214 more in her savings account than she did before the raise. Not $12,000, not $6,000, $214. And she had no idea where the rest of the money went. This is the story of lifestyle inflation, a financial mechanism so slow, so invisible, and so mathematically devastating that by the time most people notice it, it has already cost them somewhere between $300,000 and $600,000 in future wealth. And it is not Sarah's fault. Sarah is 28 years old. She works in marketing in Denver. She is not reckless with money. She does not gamble. She does not have a shopping addiction. By every reasonable standard, she has a responsible relationship with money. When her salary jumped from $58,000 to $70,000, she did what most financially reasonable people do. She recalibrated her life to match her new income. Her old apartment was fine, but it had thin walls and no parking. Her new apartment cost $400 more per month. That felt reasonable on a $70,000 salary. Her old car had 80,000 miles on it. Nothing was wrong with it. But when the lease on a newer model came in at $280 a month, that also felt reasonable. She started getting lunch delivered to the office 3 days a week instead of packing. About $150 per month. Reasonable. She upgraded her gym membership. She bought a new wardrobe for her new title. She added 2 streaming services she had been delaying. She started tipping 25% instead of 18%. Each individual decision was reasonable. Together, they consumed nearly all of her raise in the first year. Let's put exact numbers to what happened. Sarah's raise was $12,000 on paper. After federal tax, state tax, Social Security, and Medicare, her actual take-home increase was roughly $8,400. That is the real money. That is what she had to work with. Now the spending side. The apartment upgrade, $4,800 per year. The car payment, $3,360 per year. The lunch deliveries, $1,800 per year. The gym upgrade, $480 per year. 2 new streaming services, $336 per year. The increased tipping, roughly $420 per year. And a one-time wardrobe refresh of $600. Total new annual spending, $11,796. Her real take-home raise was $8,400. Sarah is now spending about $3,400 more per year than she has actually earned. She earned more. She is saving less than before. This is not a budgeting failure. This is not a discipline failure. This is lifestyle inflation. And it is the default behavior of every income increase that is not consciously managed. What happened to Sarah is not unusual. It is the statistical norm. The Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks something called household consumption expenditure. It tracks how much American households spend by income bracket. The data tells a clear story. When household income rises by $10,000, household spending rises by roughly $9,500 on average. 95% of every income increase, absorbed into spending within the same year it arrives. The savings rate, meanwhile, barely moves. Households earning $60,000 save roughly 5% of their income. Households earning $120,000 save roughly 6%. Double the income? Almost the same savings rate. This is the engine of lifestyle inflation operating at population scale. Every cohort, every income bracket, every decade since the data has been collected. The pattern is not personal, it is structural. Sarah did not fail. The default did exactly what the default does. Here is what nobody told Sarah. The raise was never the problem. The problem is what a raise actually means mathematically over time, and why the version of the story Sarah told herself was missing 2 critical variables that almost no one teaches. The first one is psychological. The second one is mathematical. Together, they are the difference between retiring with $200,000 and retiring with $800,000. There are 3 forces working against Sarah simultaneously. Each one is invisible. Each one is well documented. Together, they make lifestyle inflation almost impossible to resist without a specific system in place. The first force is hedonic adaptation. This is the human tendency to return to a baseline level of satisfaction regardless of what changes in our circumstances. The new apartment stops feeling new after about 3 months. The nicer car becomes the normal car. The upgraded gym is just the gym. The pleasure of each upgrade is temporary. The cost of each upgrade is permanent. The second force is what economists call the Diderot effect. It is named after an 18th century French philosopher who received an expensive new dressing gown as a gift, and within a year had replaced almost every other item in his study because nothing else looked good enough next to the new robe. He documented his own descent into debt in a famous essay called Regrets on Parting with My Old Dressing Gown. The Diderot effect describes how a single upgrade silently triggers a cascade of additional upgrades. The new apartment makes the old furniture look shabby. The new car makes the old wardrobe look outdated. The new title at work makes the old social circle feel small. One upgrade rarely arrives alone. It arrives as the first domino. The third force is status anchoring. When Sarah got her raise, she did not compare her new salary to her old salary. She compared it to the salaries of people at her new level. Her colleagues at her new title drove nicer cars. They lived in better neighborhoods. They ate at better restaurants. Her brain recalibrated what was normal, and spending follows normal. This is not a character flaw. It is a cognitive feature that kept humans alive for 200,000 years by constantly updating what constitutes enough. The problem is that enough, in a consumer economy with unlimited options and zero friction spending, is not a stable number. It is a moving target, and it moves in exactly one direction. Economists have a name for this combined effect. They call it the hedonic treadmill. You walk faster, you go nowhere, and the faster your income grows, the faster the treadmill moves. There is a counterintuitive truth buried in this data that almost nobody talks about. The higher your income grows, the more vulnerable you become to lifestyle inflation. Not less. Households earning $200,000 a year save, on average, only slightly more of their income than households earning $60,000. The peer comparison sets scales with the income, the wardrobe scales, the neighborhood scales, the car scales, the vacation scale, the school district scales. Every input that triggers status anchoring scales with the paycheck, and every one of those inputs has a price. There's also a specific trap for couples that economist Elizabeth Warren documented years ago. She called it the two-income trap. When both partners receive raises, both lifestyles inflate simultaneously, and the household locks itself into a fixed cost structure: mortgage, daycare, 2 cars, 2 career wardrobes that becomes nearly impossible to unwind without a major life disruption. The dual-income household feels wealthier. On paper, it is wealthier. But the fixed cost floor rises faster than the income, and the buffer disappears. High earners are not immune to lifestyle inflation. They are the most exposed group. Now let's run the math that Sarah was never shown. Sarah's income grows at roughly 3% per year nominal, which after inflation is about 1% real. That is the long-run average for American knowledge workers, not a generous projection. At 28, she earns $70,000. By 58, with steady annual adjustments and no extra promotions, she will be earning roughly $170,000. Over those 30 years, her cumulative raises will total about $1.5 million in additional income compared to if her salary had simply stayed flat. Now meet 3 versions of Sarah. Sarah A is the real Sarah. She lifestyle inflates with every raise. She maintains roughly the same comfortable margin above her spending. She retires with about $220,000 in investable assets. Sarah B applies one rule. She banks 50% of every raise into a low-cost index fund and keeps the rest of her spending flat. She enjoys the other half guilt-free. At 7% average annual market returns after inflation, Sarah B retires with about $810,000. Sarah C is the extreme version. She banks 100% of every raise. Her lifestyle never changes from the day she was 28. She still lives the same life she was already happy with. Sarah C retires with roughly $1,600,000. The difference between Sarah A and Sarah C is over $1,400,000. Not because Sarah C made more money. They earned identical salaries. Not because Sarah C was frugal or ascetic or lived a diminished life. She simply refused to let the treadmill accelerate. The 50-50 version, Sarah B, is the realistic middle path. It costs her nothing she would have noticed. It buys her almost $600,000 of future freedom. That is the hidden cost of lifestyle inflation. It does not show up on any bill. It does not appear on any bank statement. It is the money that was never missing, because it was never saved in the first place. So, what do you actually do? 3 rules. We will call this the raise protocol. Rule 1. Wait 30 days before adjusting anything. When a raise arrives, the psychological pressure to upgrade is immediate. Hedonic adaptation has not yet started. Status anchoring is at its peak. The 30-day window allows the emotional response to settle. Most of the upgrades that felt urgent in week 1 feel less urgent by week 4. Rule 2. The 50-50 rule. Of every net raise after taxes, 50% goes directly to a separate investment account, automated on the first day of the new pay cycle. The remaining 50% can be spent however you choose. No guilt, no restriction, just a non-negotiable first split. The automation matters more than the percentage. If the money is automatically diverted before it ever arrives in the checking account, hedonic adaptation will work in your favor instead of against you. Within 3 months, you will have adapted to the new lower take-home as the new baseline. Rule 3. Name the upgrade before you make it. Before any lifestyle increase, a new apartment, a new car, a new subscription, write down the exact annual cost and the exact number of months you expect to keep it. This is not a test the upgrade needs to pass. It is simply an act of making the invisible visible. The Diderot effect operates in the dark. Naming each upgrade out loud, with its annual price tag attached, is enough to disrupt the cascade in many cases. That is the system. It is not radical. It requires no sacrifice beyond the 30-day wait and the automated transfer. But over 30 years, it is the difference between $200,000 and over $1 million. Sarah is not a cautionary tale. She is the median outcome of a financial system that never taught people that income growth and wealth growth are not the same thing. They can be, with one rule applied at the right moment. The raise is not the problem. The treadmill is. If you are expecting a raise in the next 12 months, or if you already got one and recognized yourself somewhere in Sarah's story, drop a number in the comments. How much of your last raise do you think you actually kept? Be honest. The math is more interesting when it is real. And if you want to see what happens to Sarah's $810,000 when she starts paying off debt the wrong way, that one comes next.